Hey there, this is John from GetLeadForms. So you may have come across GetLeadForms and thought to yourself, what makes GetLeadForms different than all the other form builders out there? And that's a fair question. The form space is super competitive, it's crowded, there's so many lookalike tools. That's why in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the main competitors, and I'm going to talk about the market and the form space and really dive into what makes GetLeadForms different, why I built the tool, and where we're going to be taking it into the future. At the end of the video, you're going to know if GetLeadForms is the right tool for you or if you should be using one of the competitors out there. So before we begin, let me just set some context around what GetLeadForms is. At the end of the day, we built GetLeadForms around a very specific use case and around a very specific persona. And our use case is built around creating high converting multi-step forms for marketing campaigns. And we built GetLeadForms for marketers, web designers, web developers, and businesses that are looking to maximize both conversion and lead quality. Now, I would never tell somebody to come to GetLeadForms to build something like a job application form or even an NPS customer satisfaction survey. There's tools for that. Can you do that with GetLeadForms? Yes. But our use case and our feature roadmap from now into the future is built around the use case of more advanced marketers, the use case of driving conversion and lead quality. So I just wanted to set that context and frame the conversation for where I'm going to take things, and you'll begin to see how GetLeadForms stacks up against some of the competitors. So let's start with one of the 10,000-pound gorillas in the, I guess you could call it in the marketing space. So Opt-in Monster. Opt-in Monster is an amazing tool. Like most of the tools that I'm going to show you, I have nothing against the competitors. I think the market is, I think there's a gap in the market, and I'm going to explain that. But I have nothing against the competitors, and Opt-in Monster is an amazing tool. Now, when we look at the market landscape for forms, the forms market, you typically see forms fall into two categories. So you have, or maybe, I guess we could call it two categories. So you have your list building tools like Opt-in Monster. Then you have your data collection tools. This is where you're getting into tools like Typeform and GetLeadForms. So a list building, so in my opinion, Opt-in Monster is very much a list building tool. If you're looking to build a very simple list to like think about a newsletter list or thinking about a lead magnet, or maybe you have like a Shopify store and you're looking to do something like create a list based on a coupon when somebody hits your Shopify page. Opt-in Monster is great for that. It's really good for building like a one-off list when somebody hits your site. It's great for driving in leads through a lead magnet. If you're looking to do things with lead magnet, such as like floating bars, light pop-ups, gamified wheels, they have a lot of cool stuff. But when it comes to creating really advanced multi-step forms built around the use case of more sophisticated marketing campaigns to drive conversion and quality leads being a key word there, I feel that Opt-in Monster starts to fall short, and that's what most of our customers come to us and say. Interactive forms is not something they do a great job with. Let's take a look at Sumo. When it comes to list building, Sumo is by far one of my favorite tools. I actually like it a bit more than Opt-in Monster. They've done a great job of integrating with various platforms such as WordPress and Shopify. But again, I would say that Sumo is one of those tools that fits more into that list building category. If you're looking to build an email list with a lead magnet, if you're looking to build your newsletter, Sumo is a great choice for you. But if you're looking to do something with an interactive multi-step form, if you're looking to generate qualified leads and more at the bottom of the funnel, high intent qualified leads, if you're looking for a platform that's focused on conversion, not quite a form builder, but a conversion platform, Sumo may not be for you. In fact, maybe a good way to think about it is list building tools probably don't even really compete with tools like GetLeadForms. I think they should be used in conjunction with tools like GetLeadForms. But it really just depends on your use case and what you're trying to accomplish in your marketing. So both Opt-in Monster and Sumo are amazing tools. Again, they're more list building tools, and there's so many list building tools that are just like them. People have come in and tried to really like clone what they do, but I'd say that these are the category leaders. And there's many more. There's tools like Privy. I don't even know where to begin listing half the tools out there. So now let's get into another tool here. We'll come back to this one. Let's talk about Jotform. So now we're starting to get more away from the list building tools. I'll close these two. And we're starting to get more into your data collection tools. So typically somebody who's looking to use Jotform, they may not be a marketer who's focused on building a list. More than likely, they're just trying to build a form for their website. And typically with Jotform, if we look at some of the templates here, you see people building more sophisticated forms without code. So one of the problems, even today when I'm shooting this video in 2022, is that it can be very hard to actually build a form for a website like a WordPress site or even like a custom coded site. You pretty much have to code the form, and there's a lot of considerations when you code up a form, such as security. So companies like Jotform have come in over the years and have made this process ridiculously simple, where you don't even need to code up your form. But if you look at Jotform's forms, they are very ugly, and that's the first thing to know. They're not that great looking. I'm sure you can build a very nice looking form with Jotform, but at the end of the day, Jotform's use case is just allowing you to build all types of forms: feedback forms, customer satisfaction forms. Like, look at how advanced this form is. Like, it looks like some sort of like form you would, like a paper satisfaction form. You can do hotel booking forms, like really kind of advanced forms that don't quite fall into lead generation and capture, that don't quite fall into the lead capture space. Although you can build lead capture forms with Jotform. I've heard that, and I've never really quite used it myself, but from users who have switched, I've heard that the experience of creating really nice lead capture forms in Jotform is rather difficult. And they can never really get really high converting forms from Jotform. And that makes sense because a tool like Jotform is designed to do one thing, and that is to help you build forms without code. So Jotform is a good tool, but it's not built around the use case of the marketer who's looking to drive conversion and quality leads. So Jotform, I believe they were like one of the first movers in the category creator, and there's a lot of different tools like Jotform, thinking FormStack, and just tons of copycat tools. And they've kind of emerged as the category leader in that space. But then over the years, we've had Typeform come into the market. And Typeform basically says, they came in and they were like, okay, Jotform's a good tool. It solves a very good problem that's hard to solve. But at the end of the day, the forms are not user friendly. They're hard to use, and that impacts conversion and just drives customers crazy. So what Typeform did was they came in and they said, how do we create a better form? How do we create a form that is designed around creating a more human-friendly quality experience? And basically what Typeform did was they took a lot of what Jotform does and they just turned it into interactive forms, surveys, and quizzes that are more modern and user-friendly. Now, if we look at Typeform, they are, I would say right now, if you're thinking about Typeform, if you're thinking about things like surveys and creating surveys and some of the types of forms that you could create in Jotform, they are becoming the category leader, I think, right now. Like surveys, quizzes, all sorts of forms could be created inside of Typeform. Now, Typeform has kind of the same problem as Jotform, where they're very broad, and maybe it's not a problem because I'm sure they get insane growth, but you can create almost any type of form with Typeform. It's almost not only like a Jotform alternative, but I would also consider it like a Google Forms alternative. The thing about Typeform is because they're so broad, because they're trying to capture so much growth and demand, I feel that they have really not done a good job of narrowly focusing on and solving the use case and needs and pains of marketers when it comes to forms. Yes, you can create some really nice lead generation forms inside of Typeform, but there's a whole bunch of problems with doing that. The first is that all forms pretty much look the same. If you go to a website that's using Typeform, and if you're familiar with their UI, then you pretty much know in a second that the person's using Typeform or some different tool that's tried to clone Typeform and has pretty much cloned their UI. That's the first thing. And I believe that because of that, because so many tools are starting to use the same forms, they're all starting to look the same. And it's definitely something that could impact conversion. But not only that, there's like a level of uniqueness that's kind of lost in being stuck into Typeform standards of creating a form within their framework. They don't really allow for a ton of flexibility outside of like customizing a background or something like that. Um, and that's where Typeform starts to fall short from like a marketing perspective. It's great if you need to create like some sort of a survey. Maybe you're in like a psychology class and you need to create a survey for your class. I think it's amazing for that. Or it's great if you need to create, maybe you work for a SaaS company and you want to create some sort of customer satisfaction type of survey. I think it works pretty well for that. But it starts to fall short again around the use case pains and needs of the marketer who's really focused on conversion and lead quality. And there's when you think about all the things that a marketer needs or a business needs to drive leads and convert leads and generate quality leads, there's all these like micro features ranging from social proof to personalization throughout the form, um, to just how you handle pop-ups and things like that. There's so many of those little features that are necessary but not included, and in even category leaders like Typeform. So without even getting into like their pricing and problems with that and some of their lack of features and their webhook, I would say just from like a high level, Typeform is kind of like Jotform. It's not a list builder necessarily. It falls more into just a data collection type of interactive form space. But it's broad and it definitely, there's a lot that they kind of leave on the table when it comes to the needs and use case of marketers. Then there's a ton of different tools that have popped up. So there's this competitor, which I've recently become aware of, called GetLeadForms. And I'd say that this is pretty much just a Typeform clone. Just looking at their templates, they're very similar. If we dive in here, like this is that Typeform type of look, very similar to Typeform, but not as nice. I would just go with Typeform personally. I don't really know what the price difference is and all that, but this just looks like a Typeform clone. And there's a lot of different forms that are popping up, form tools, I should say, that are just outright swiping Typeform's UI and design. I don't think that's a good idea. And while GetLeadForms is probably, I would say, Typeform's a competitor, we don't even look at their design that much. We don't try to model what they're doing. We try to create a more flexible system, so that way you're not locked into a very specific type of form. And from like a marketing perspective and a conversion perspective, that means you can get in there and do more testing and things like that, to really help boost conversion rate. So let's get rid of these. Then you get into some tools like Ninja Forms. I think the only thing to really note about Ninja Forms and the millions of different plugins, I guess millions is kind of an extreme thing to say, and the dozens of different plugins like Ninja Forms, like WP Forms, all these forms are just form builders that help you build forms in WordPress or different sites like that. So then the final one to note is just CRM forms. So what makes GetLeadForms different than your standard CRM form or an HTML form that you could code up? We covered some of the category leaders, we covered some of the list building tools, but at the end of the day, we also compete with just the person who's looking to use a form from their CRM like ActiveCampaign or HubSpot, and or even coding their own form. And GetLeadForms, I would say, there's a lot of benefits to using GetLeadForms over these tools. Most of these tools, especially like CRM type tools or like a form built in Mailchimp, most of them allow you to build these really like simple basic forms. You can't really do a lot on the conversion optimization side. Can't do a lot in terms of driving in quality leads. Can't really break forms up into multiple steps. So in terms of like CRM based forms or a form you could custom code, GetLeadForms crushes those forms. And it's not the CRM's fault. Like HubSpot is an amazing company, great tool. Their forms, not so great, but it's just something that they haven't chosen to focus on because they have much larger features that they're focused on and probably a much different roadmap and business model than a tool like GetLeadForms. So now diving into GetLeadForms here, just to kind of tie back what I said in the beginning, the use case around GetLeadForms is narrowly focused around the needs of the marketer or business that's looking to create really engaging forms that both drive conversion and drive high quality leads. And it may seem counterintuitive to say like we're the multi-step form platform or the interactive form platform, but by narrowly focusing on multi-step forms and the use case of marketers and businesses that are looking to drive in qualified leads and conversion, we are able to build a better product around those needs. And we're able to really shape our roadmap and our feature set that we're building now and into the future. And we're able to build something that's a little bit more unique than your standard list building tools that are all cloning each other and your standard like Typeform, Jotform tools that are all copying each other. So let me dive into the platform a little bit and show you what I mean here. Well, actually, before we do that, let's just look at some templates here. So if you think about what I showed you with Jotform, with Typeform, and one of the clones, they lock you into a very specific design. If we just quickly scan down the templates here for GetLeadForms, you'll see that we allow you to create many different types of forms with different styles. For example, you'll see that if we click on this style form, this is your traditional looking multi-step form, the style form that you see like the big guns like Home Advisor and Angie's List use. We allow you to easily build those types of forms, whereas like with a type form, you can never really build something that quite looks like something that a Home Advisor would build. Not only that, but as you can see with this one, you can have the form pop up and you can adjust the pop-up settings so you can create pop-up forms and get lead forms as well. Kind of like what the list building tools like an opt-in monster can do, but you can make your forms way more advanced and set them up so they can generate qualified leads. Not only that, but if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a very unique feature over here at GetLeadForms called the on-site message. And it's kind of like modeling what chatbots do, where it can present a message that persists across all the pages of your site or specific pages that you want it to appear on. And it can display a personalized message that when clicked, it can open up the form. We have found that this really helps increase engagement. And one of the really unique things about this, when we're thinking about the use case of marketers and driving conversion, you can pull in UTMs and actually personalize this message. So let's say you're driving traffic from a paid search campaign. You can create a hyper personalized message right here to drive engagement with your forms. When I first built GetLeadForms, one of the problems I was trying to solve was a lot of people, when they're creating a website, they bury the contact form on some page somewhere and it's hard to find. As a result, I believe that leads to missed opportunities. So one of the things that I was trying to figure out is, aside from just having like a form pop up across a page, what can you do to generate more engagement? And that led to this on-site message idea. Now, this isn't something that has to exist. You can disable it, but it does help drive conversion. So that was a bit of a tangent there, but I wanted to show you that because it's just another example of how most of the category leaders in the data collection space, such as a Typeform and Jotform, how they're not thinking through that lens, and it's costing them the opportunity to solve problems around conversion and lead quality. And I think they're not thinking about that because they just don't need to, because they're so big. Or maybe they're just not in touch with reality of the marketers, or maybe they're not even serving that part of the market. That's where there's a gap, I think. So then you can create even your standard looking embed form here. So you can have just a single step form if you wanted to. Going back a little bit, here's yet another example of your traditional looking multi-step form with icons. Now you could also create like if we go back, you could also create like your BuzzFeed style form where it's like a picture in the buttons. Unfortunately, I don't have any templates like that, but you can get that level of flexibility when it comes to the design of your form. Another thing I want to highlight real quick before I stop giving the tour of the form builder here is we also have this very unique template that you will not find across various competitive platforms. And this is what we call the chat style template. And what's really unique about this, and this was probably one of the first templates that we launched with when we launched GetLeadForms. What's unique about this is it is a very personalized look and feel. And one of the things that we're trying to solve with our forms is how do we create forms that build trust? Look, it's 2022, and in this day and age, people are getting more hesitant to share their information even through forms. They don't know what's happening to their data. They don't know who's behind the form, and they're not even sure what's going to happen once they submit the form. Are they going to get spam? Are they going to get spam calls and all that type of stuff? So the whole idea is, from a marketing perspective or through the lens of conversion rate optimization, if we begin to pull the human up from behind the form by showing their face in the form, how can that begin to increase conversion? That was the original hypothesis when I created this style form. I was wondering if I just start showing a picture of myself or somebody else, that's not me, but if I started to show a picture of somebody, can that impact conversion rate? Then I kind of went a step further and said, what if I made it look kind of like a chat where it just has this more friendly look and feel than your traditional form, and added in some social proof, which could be real time down there. And what happened was we created this really high converting lead form that a lot of people love and use across all of their marketing campaigns. And you won't find something like this at like a Typeform. Sure, there's some competitors that have tried to model this type of look and feel. There's some people that have done this with like Jotform and such, but it's not quite like this. And it's always kind of hacky and thrown together. With this style form, we built a very specific template around it, so you could just get started with like a click of a button pretty much. So I wanted to highlight that this is a really highly engaging form, and you saw that it could be opened up with the click of a button, but it could also be embedded right into the page like this. This works really well. I've seen people use this in like legal, mortgage, and all of those types of service businesses where building trust and rapport is really important. And the form is like the best place to do it. That's the beginning of your sales process. That is, your form is the bridge to your sales team. So you might as well build trust. One more thing to highlight here as I'm going through this is I want to highlight that you can also have a background graphic in your forms, just like you can with Typeform and the other forms. That was just something I wanted to point out. Apologize about my coughing there. I want to try to wrap this up because this is going on for a little bit too long. Finally, let me just dive into the platform real quick, because I mentioned something important and I don't want to miss out on making this point when it comes to the competitors and the landscape. I mentioned that I feel as though a lot of competitors have missed the opportunity to create these micro features that really matter when it comes to both driving in high conversion rates for forms and increasing lead quality. And again, that's because they take this broad approach. Whereas I GetLeadForms, we're narrowly focused on the use case of the marketer and the business that's driving leads and looking for quality leads. That means that again, as I stated, our product roadmap is specifically designed with the intent to create features that drive conversion. So let's just take a look at some of these features so I can show you what they look like. So I'm just going to open up this form, and the way that GetLeadForms works real quick is you go from left to right to design and build your form. You work on the left-hand side. All of the changes you make update right here. And then you can adjust your steps and click into each step in the list of steps. So just looking at settings real quick, we have some very unique features such as this Google address autocomplete feature that autofills the address as the person starts typing it in. And it is built on top of Google Maps infrastructure, so it's very reliable. So this type of feature is just one of the first types of features that I can even begin to point out that helps drive conversion. We have this drop-off mode, which is very unique to GetLeadForms. And with drop-off mode, you can essentially flip the switch and capture data at the beginning of the form. So let's say you capture contact details on step 1 and you want to have another step behind that. You can essentially do that, and if the person abandons, you can capture their information. Now, it's not perfect. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but I don't know many platforms that have this specific feature. So even if you capture somebody like 60 to 70% of the time, the form abandonments, I mean, you'll still benefit hugely by using this feature. And then outside of that, there's a whole bunch of little features in here in the settings section, but I want to jump on over to the design section to point out something. So one of the features that makes GetLeadForms very unique is our social proof. So you can set your social proof. You'll see it down here. You can disable it if you'd like to, but social proof is a really nice way to help boost form conversion rates. And this is yet another example of how when we're building features, we're thinking through the lens of what does a marketer need, what does a business need to drive in conversion to keep people going through each step of the form. Just so happens that social proof is a great way to do that. I don't know if you've ever seen the little social proof pop-ups that pop up on sites. That was kind of where the idea came from. I noticed a lot of people use those, and then I thought, why not just embed it into the form? Now, the nice thing about the social proof is you can seed it, and then each time somebody submits the form, the count will automatically increase. So that's the social proof side of things. We have progress bars and all that type of stuff. Again, there's the on-site message feature that I was showing you before, which is super unique to GetLeadForms and something that even the list building tools that are actually built for marketers aren't really thinking about. So then when we get into lead delivery, there's a lot you can do here. So there's the integrations. I'm not even going to touch on that because most tools have integrations. But one thing I can say is we probably have one of the most sophisticated and powerful webhooks. I think Jotform has a pretty solid webhook, but I've heard we have a better webhook than Typeform. And our webhook allows you to push data into all sorts of systems using JSON, XML, and form type of data. Where is that? So that's right in here. So we have a pretty powerful webhook if you need that. If you don't need that, then we have some direct integrations along with Zapier. But where we also get more unique is how we handle lead notifications. And this, so with lead notifications, you have your standard notifications. You can plug your address in and leads will be sent to you. You can also get leads delivered straight to your phone. And you can also add conditional email lead notifications. So for example, you can get really creative here and set up your form so that if somebody selects a very specific response, you can choose to not send the response to somebody, or you can choose to send the response. You can even customize the lead notification. It's very advanced and sophisticated. And outside of, I think, Jotform, you won't really see this feature inside of tools. If they do have it, then they probably feature gate it. We don't feature gate this. Another really advanced and unique feature that we have is lead verification. So to start, we allow you to verify mobile phone leads with a text message that gets sent with a unique PIN code. And this is a really great way to improve lead quality and kind of prevent either like fake or incorrect phone numbers. And this is the first phase of our lead verification. We're going to have many more lead verifications coming in the near future. So that's something I want to point out because I don't really see a lot of form builder tools trying to solve that problem. And it is actually a pretty big problem. There's a problem of fake leads and even incorrect leads. So if you can verify the lead before you send it through to your team, that can help a ton. And it can just reduce overall clutter in your CRM and all of that. So those are the main things to note. And then as far as lead delivery goes, getting into publish, one of the things that so like LeadForms comes with the standard behavior, so you can either embed it or you can set some pop-up. You can choose how you want the lead form to pop up. You can open it with the click of a button. Nothing crazy there. Most tools allow you to do that. But one of the things that makes GetLeadForms super unique amongst the competitors is when it comes to form load speed. So I would say that we probably have the fastest loading forms on the planet outside of people who just outright hard code their forms. And if you look at our forms, you'll notice that there's a little spinner that appears for like half a second. And that's actually not what I'm talking about. I mean, you can completely get rid of that spinner if you generate raw code. So if you come into your form, you have this advanced setting here where you can come in and generate the raw code for your form. And what this basically does is it gives you a giant block of code that decouples the lead form from your server, from the GetLeadForms server. Not completely, but just enough so we can maximize load time and have it set up where it's a seamless experience, where when somebody loads the form, it doesn't even, where when somebody loads the form, it doesn't even take a second to load. So for example, here's a site that I have with a lead form embedded into it. If I just refresh this, watch, it's not going to spin at all. It just pops right up. It's almost like it was natively built in that page. And the reason for that is because I used the raw code feature to integrate the form into the page for a more seamless and native experience. Beyond that, one other thing to point out is you can create a really hyper personalized form using variables. So this is a very advanced feature, and it's a great way to boost conversion rates. Simply put, the way this works here is you could jump into a very specific response in your form, such as name, and you'll notice if you look closely, there's a variable name, and it's this contact underscore form underscore name in brackets. So you can take this contact form name and pull it into another step and say something like, thanks, and then it will actually pull in the person's name. And you could do that with all the fields and responses in your form. Not only that, but you can pull in UTMs from things like paid search campaigns. So if somebody's searching for plumber in New York, you could pull that into your form and say, looking for a plumber in New York. And then if they're searching for plumber in Chicago, you could pull that into the form and say, looking for a plumber in Chicago. So as you can see, we allow you to create these really hyper personalized forms, which again helps a ton with conversion. And I think it's important to note that I built that around my use case. I really needed that as a marketer who's using these forms to generate leads. Most of GetLeadForms has been built around my use case. We haven't looked at a ton of competitors. And outside of what I've needed, we've just taken a ton of feedback and continued to build around what customers need. Finally, one of the final things to point out is we have a lot of data that we provide back into the system. And there's a whole section that shows metrics and all that great stuff. But the thing I really want to highlight here is that we show you your step-based metrics and roughly how long it takes somebody to complete a step. Now, I don't know if the rest of the tools do that type of thing. I haven't looked, but it feels like it's pretty unique to GetLeadForms, and you can even export it to a CSV to dive deeper into the data. So what's really nice here is it allows you to optimize the form once you launch it, which basically means you can get even more leads. Multi-step forms are amazing, but sometimes if you add too many fields or the wrong type of field, you could increase friction. So one of the questions that always pops up is, well, how do I know if the multi-step form is actually helping me? And I think that's a really good question. And I don't think a lot of form tools, especially like Typeform and the tools that build these interactive forms, I don't think they've really helped people get to the bottom of that. And that's really what we're trying to solve here. And over time, we'll make the UI look way nicer and really improve it. But at the end of the day, this does get the job done in helping you understand where there's step drop off rate. Now, beyond that, you could integrate with GA, like GA4, and do some more advanced analysis on your side, like with GA and Tag Manager. I've seen some people do some things like that. But just from a high level, that is the type of data that you get back. And then you get more data back. If this form were live, you would start to see data populating and some real-time metrics. But I just wanted to note that you can dive right into your form and see step-based metrics. So from a really high level, those are some of the core features. That's what makes GetLeadForms different. And as we continue to build out the platform based around my needs as a marketer and our customers' needs, we're getting a lot of great feedback. We're going to continue to build this, not just a form builder, but this conversion platform that really helps marketers and businesses build these high converting lead forms and lead funnels to drive in conversion and high quality leads. So at the end of the day, I think hopefully it has become pretty clear how we're different, and hopefully you're starting to see where we're headed. We have some really cool things planned. I'm really excited about the future. And I hope if GetLeadForms meets your use case, and if this is something that you think you could use, then I would love to see you jump on board with us. And we are more than happy to help you get started. Whenever somebody comes on board, if they have a question, we always respond as soon as possible, and we often shoot a Loom video showing you exactly what to do. So if you ever jump in and get stuck and you're not sure what to do, don't abandon the tool. Just reach out to us. We're super friendly and are always here to help. And we'll typically just shoot a Loom video. Again, like I said, we'll shoot a Loom video and send it to you, and that will get you headed in the right direction. So thank you for watching this. If you stayed through until the end, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on the inside.